Some of you will know me as the sister-in-law of a once powerful oppressor of human beings. Sorry, the Middle East envoy Tony Blair, as he likes to be known. And hopefully others of you will also be aware that my real job title is presenter and broadcaster. But I'd like to tonight, if I may, share with you my journey to Islam. Because being a Muslim, I now understand how spiritually uplifting it is to see someone take the shahada like that. I was crying. So in 2005, I managed to get myself a commission from my newspaper to go and interview Mahmoud Abbas in Ramallah. I went on my own, not knowing what to expect. But I did have some preconceptions that I took with me, which is funny as a socialist, because I didn't know I had them until I was on the plane to Tel Aviv. And on the plane to Tel Aviv, I realized I was scared of Arabs. Pretty scared of Arabs. Arabs with guns were really going to be frightening. And Arab Muslims with guns in the West Bank, where everybody was terrorists, what was I doing? I wanted to go home. I kind of hoped the Israelis would just deport me. I heard they do that. But nobody did. It wasn't what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had planned. So I took a taxi to Ramallah. And I realized on that taxi ride that I had what we can call a mild form, at least, of Islamophobia. I thought everyone was terrorists. I didn't know anything about women in hijabs. I didn't know anything about Islam. And here I was going to terrorist enclave, Palestine, the Palestinian territories run by terrorists in the enclave of terrorism. So imagine how I felt the next day, going up in a big metal lift with huge Palestinian guards around me with their guns and their walkie-talkies. And I'll never forget that scene. It replays sometimes in my mind. There's me standing there, huge, fatter gunmen, as they're called on CNN. They're guards for the president. Everybody has them. Get over it. And I'm standing there, and one of them says this, Bukra, Bukra, yalla, 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 inshallah. Habibi, yalla, habibi. And I think to myself, subtitle, we'll behead the white woman later. This is what I heard. This is what I was hearing every time they spoke. I thought, I've seen this movie and it doesn't end well for the white woman. It's not good. What am I doing here? It took me a little while, maybe about 5 days in the West Bank, for all of that to be gone. I was walking down a road the next day in Ramallah without a coat. The Israelis had kept my luggage, as they do when they find out you're going to the West Bank. It's very common. So I only had a kind of shirt on, and I was walking around going, wow, look at this place. And an old lady said, yalla, 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 yalla. And she took me into her house and put her arm around mine. And she said, showed me a wardrobe full of clothes. Looked at them and took out a coat, put it on my back, got out a little suitcase, got out some jumpers. She said, Habibti, yalla. And wrote down her address. I said, what is this? I've never encountered such instant generosity to a stranger. And that wasn't all. Everywhere I walked, hello, how are you? Salam alaikum. The full back position I was beginning to realize for the Palestinian people, Muslims and Christians. I will never forget that there are Christians in the West Bank and Gaza are enormous, any of us here. But their full back position is the same. You're welcome. You're our friend. If you come in peace to a Muslim area that is under attack, wherever you are from, you are with us and we will take care of you. That was the message I was getting. And it was starting to break down what I knew about Islam. But I was definitely not on the road to being a Muslim. I was just learning about the Middle East, right? This wasn't my road. I was drinking alcohol. I was enjoying my life. Alhamdulillah, you know, I've always been a happy person. One of my best friends calls me Miss Upside. She sends me texts, how's life on the upside today? I've always been one of those people that, you know, you crash your car, you split up with your husband, everything goes wrong, but I had a really good poached egg today. My friends laugh about it, but I can't help it. I went to Gaza, and that changed my life. It really did. Anybody who has any interest in Palestine should really go there, because just go there. And I went with the Free Gaza movement in 2008 on a boat, and we made it. We actually made it. The first people in 41 years to sail from the outside world to the coast of Palestine. Can you imagine how that felt? And I wasn't even thinking about it. Something in me was just making these decisions. People are saying, you could die, it doesn't matter, I can't let people live like that. You could get attacked, it doesn't matter, there's kids starving, haven't you seen the news, don't you understand? Every single person, there were 46 people on 2 boats. Only 3 of them Muslim. Not because the Muslims weren't interested in going, but because we wanted to make a statement that white people care, and also we were less likely to die if we weren't, guess what, Turkish and Muslim. Think about it. Think about what happened later on. So we sent white people from Europe and America, people who wanted to go and show solidarity and just help. And when we arrived, it was like D-Day 1944 in Paris. Kids swimming up to the boat, tens of thousands of people lined. They thought we'd come to save them, but not enough of us came. I stayed there for a month. And I want to say right now, thank you very much, Israel. Thank you very much to the corrupt Egyptian regime, now fallen, alhamdulillah, for blockading me and not allowing me to leave through Erez and denying me exit through Rafah for 4 weeks. I thought at one point I would never see my children again. And after 21 days of being blockaded there, as the Egyptians laughed at my British passport and flung it aside, I was crying. I was crying in the town square just because I'd spoken to my daughter on a phone, and a lady came up to me and she started speaking in Arabic, and I got a friend to translate, and she said, I'm so sorry that you miss your children, and I understand. And she was crying for me. And I said, what's your story, sister? She lived in the West Bank, and one day she had left her village just to go to a funeral in the next village. And she had her bag of documents with her, and when she passed the Israeli guards looking her in her prison, she said, I'll be back later. Okay, remember me, I'll be back later. And when she went home that evening, on the same day, with the same soldiers, still on the same shift, she said, it's me, I'm going to go home. And they went, whoa, 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 let's see your documentation. And on her documentation it said, born in Gaza, not the West Bank. So they said, Gaza. And she went, no, 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 West Bank, I live here. Look, here's my children, here's my utility bills, what? Here. You know what they did? They bundled her in the back of a military vehicle. They took her to the Erez crossing and they threw her into the Gaza Strip. It's been 4 years now, and that woman hasn't seen her 2 sons or her husband, and she will probably never see them again. And she cried for me. She was crying for me. Like she'd forgotten her pain and she could understand. 21 days compared to 3 years. I thought, what is it? What is this wonderful empathy that I'm seeing? But I still wasn't interested in Islam. I was interested in the Palestinian question, you understand? And maybe, whereas I'd been an Arabophobe, now I was an Arabophile. Which is fine. That's okay. We can like other cultures. But you don't have to change religion. And then one night I remember going to the Rafah refugee camp, where I was to have iftar during Ramadan with one of the poorest families there. They'd invited me. And as I arrived in this cement block room, just a rug on the floor, 16 filthy mattresses piled up around the walls where 16 people would sleep that night. Women, men, children. The mother who greeted me in this hovel had the biggest smile on her face. I'll never forget it. What a lovely lady. Assalamu alaikum. Fadal. Fadal. Like I was entering a palace. And she had everything to offer me. And you know what? At that moment, I was so angry. I was angry with the Muslim God that asked people who were already starving to fast. What was that about? And I asked her, I said, I don't want to be rude, sister, but I'm feeling so angry to see you struggling and know that today you haven't had water from dawn and that you have so little already in Gaza. Why does your God make you fast during Ramadan? Just tell me why, because he must be pretty cruel and sick. And she looked at me, not with anger. She looked at me with love and she said, sister, Allah and the Prophet, Rasulullah, asks us to fast so that we remember the poor. Think about that. In a refugee camp in the Gaza Strip, during Ramadan, they fast to remember the poor. I was so moved. Honestly, I can feel a key going in a lock even now as I tell you. Chink. And a thought came really clearly into my head. If this is Islam, I want in. If this is Islam, this love, this generosity, this ability to get joy out of the most miserable existence is Islam, then I will join you with all my heart. Part of everybody's journey to Islam is dawah. How do you hear the words from the Quran? How do you hear the words from the Sunnah? I was still not looking for Islam. I put that thought away. And when I got back home, I was taking taxis because I gave up my car. And the taxi drivers were in North London. They are Somalis and Eritreans. And brothers and sisters, I respect why Islam, but I'll tell you, Somali taxi drivers are lethal at dawah, man. They are lethal. You can't get in a cab and just say hello. They're like, as the Prophet once said to his wife, Khadija, and you leave with a hole. You've got a whole journey there. I learned from Ahmad and Muhammad and Abdul, who used to drive me around, that heaven is beneath the mother's feet. You've heard that one, I'm sure. And how the Prophet, peace be upon him, answered a request about who should be respected in the house, the mother, the mother, the mother, and then the father. All of this dawah. Somali and Eritreans. And you know what else really got me about them? They were all very humble men, shy seeming, and they worked 18 to 20-hour shifts to send money home. And then they'd work extra shifts to make sure that their children had what they needed and to make sure they could go to a half-decent school in a half-decent area. And they loved their families. And I thought, do you know what? I don't know a single non-Muslim right now who's looking after his family like this, and I didn't. Not one man could I think of outside the Muslim community in London who was looking after anyone but his wife and that one child. They weren't looking after their mothers, their fathers, their uncles, their aunts. Psh, do it yourself. Go and get a job. If you're a grandparent, go into a home. But these Muslims were looking after each other. I started to feel this love building in me. And then I went to Iran, and I was working there for Press TV, reporting on the Al-Quds Day rally, and I went to a mosque. And the final thing fell into place. Because I'm an emotional person, it was never going to be first and foremost an intellectual journey. My journey to Islam was going to be one of emotion. And I sat down in a mosque one evening, and I just prayed naturally. I said, Allah, thank you. You know what? Thank you. I could cry thinking about that after what I've just told you. Because remember, I was the center of the universe. I was the one who was making things happen. And I didn't need to thank God, right? Because I was so clever and smart. And I sat there in that shrine and that mosque, and I said properly, thank you so much. You know what? I don't even need to ask you, not for one tiny little thing. Just thank you for this wonderful journey you've put me on, and please remember Palestine. And I felt a shot of pure emotional joy that sat me down on that floor for I don't know how long. Was it half an hour and a half? I have no idea. I couldn't move. I was glued to the spot with joy and calm and serenity. And that night, I slept on the floor of that mosque. It was a pilgrim's night, so other people were visiting and they slept there as well. And in the morning, they called Fajr, and I prayed. And in my heart, all of the anxiety, you know that train of thought you have, that list you have. You wake up in the morning, what am I going to do today? Clean the car, sort out the kids, buy the shorts, work, That list had gone. And I'll tell you what, brothers and sisters, alhamdulillah, it hasn't come back. I don't have that anxiety anymore. I just do things, and I pray, and good things keep happening, and I keep seeing the world through new eyes. And Allahu Akbar, I just want to say thank you to Allah very much for setting me on this path I didn't know I was on. And may I do good and work for your community as the wonderful people of Iqna are doing. And I support their efforts. If there's anything I can do to support you, may Allah help me to do that. Allahu Akbar, thank you.